Hi, my name is Ruth Moto. For almost a decade now, I've been doing everything design, from fashion design, furniture design, and now interior design. I'm super excited to bring you on this journey, even as we dive into design conversation with Ruth. We'll look at everything from residential, building, construction, and commercial design. So jump right in. One of the books I was reading when doing research around commercial design had a very interesting open line. It said, office spaces or commercial design is not God-given. It's an intervention, meaning it can be changed. But in as much as we can be very excited about the changes that we can make around our commercial design, there are certain things that we cannot, and that is standard. Standards are what I would say a demand that we put on ourselves or a demand that are placed on us based on a direction we have decided to take. So if I've decided that I'm going to run a hotel, I just can't run a hotel because I want to run a hotel the way I want it. There are certain things that I have to basically incorporate in the type of hotel I have. And that is where standards come in. Hi, my name is Ruth Moto, and welcome to Design Conversations with Ruth, Commercial Design. In this episode, we're going to talk about standards when it comes to commercial interior design. How do they affect our design procedures when we're setting out a process of how a certain design is going to take place? What do we use to ensure that we are meeting safety? We're ensuring that the people who are going to be occupying the space are well, healthy. And then we're also looking at just creating a uniformity. So when it comes to standards, I like to place them in two distinct pictures. That is domestic standards and international standards. When it comes to domestic standards, these are built in-house. And most of the times, the best places to start are when you're a startup business. You define the direction you want to go. What are the goals you want to achieve? How do you want to grow in this? There are certain factors that I like to put in as I am defining domestic standards. The first thing is setting a pattern. For example, if we're looking at hotels again, what is the pattern we're going to set? Maybe around our breakfast. How is the breakfast position going to be? Where are people coming in from? Where are people sitting? And where are people coming out? Where are people picking up their plates? Where are people picking up their juices? How are they interacting with other people who are in that room? Other people would be the people who are servicing them. Other people would be other guests who are there. How are they engaging and making sure that things are flowing the way they're supposed to? The second thing that we have to look at is creating a material list. A material list will basically help us with every part of our organization and how it runs, because we're in constant touch with materials, from the type of building that we have to the type of chairs that we sit on, the type of flooring that we have, the type of paint that we use, the type of lighting that we have. You basically get the gist. When you set up a material list, what you do is that you are helping the next people who are going to do the design for you. But also, the next time that you're going to run another set or series of interior design, it could be renovations or starting from scratch, you don't have to start asking yourself, what was that paint that we had used the last time? What type of tiles did we use the last time? When you create a material list, it basically helps you in creating uniformity for your brand. The other thing that you do is setting up a vendor list. A vendor list is both the people who are going to execute your design, but also where you source your materials from. So for example, if you've decided that your plumbing materials is everything Cobra, it helps you because first of all, you have experienced the brand. You have known for the type of business that you run that this brand works well. It could be on durability, it could also be it's accident free when you use it. And once you have that information, it's very easy to transfer it to your materials list and it makes decisions better. The other thing that you have to look at is what is just the basic health and safety standard that we can have. Before you go to the international standards, as an organization, how do we ensure that the people who work in this organization are safe? When they walk in, where is the assembly point? This is where we're going to set it. What type of clothing do they wear, and how does that keep them in a healthy space? But also, how do they interact with everything that is around them, if it's in terms of furniture? When they're walking in and we're setting a workstation for someone, when they walk in, do they bump into themselves? Or am I sure that whoever is working in each department is safe from any harm that they're doing? This can be broken down to even the smallest startup that you have. You could be a media company. What are the things that you work with? And how are you ensuring that your workspace is free from harm? How much heat is in the room that you're working in? What have you done around acoustics? What have you done around sound? Are you ensuring that whatever sound you're producing is not harming people's ears as they're listening to that? So depending on the type of sector that you have, you know it better. But as an organization, it's very important that you set those standards in place for continuity's sake. And remember, we're looking at interior design as something that also helps you with your growth strategy. The next aspect is international standards. International standards, they basically help us align. They help us in knowing when I'm coming to build something, when I'm coming to set something, when I'm sourcing for materials that are going to sit into this place, and help with the aesthetic of how this, whichever department it is, could be your reception, your office, your conference meeting room, or your outside, your rest areas. How are we making sure that they meet the international standards they're supposed to do? There are many different standards that you look at. There's the international fire conduct standards, there's the building codes, there is your plumbing standards, there is your electrical standards. There's all these things that you have to understand and research on. For example, you can't just decide that because at a mall, they only have 6 toilets and the mall sees more than 10,000 people in a day. So if I'm going to open, or I have a different type of office, I also need to have the same number of toilets. It doesn't work like that, because if you look at the plumbing codes, they'll be able to tell you for this particular type of office that you run, if you have 1 to 5 people, for males, you need to at least have 1 toilet and 1 urinal. If you have 25 people to 50 people, they'll also give you a number that you need to have. That way you know there's no infections that are coming in. There's a number of things that are interactive in an organization that international standards help you to prevent. And this will be different across sectors. So then the question comes in. As an organization, what do we need to do to ensure that we are complying with the international standards, but also we are making sure that we're setting up domestic standards that are pushing us to become exceptional in the type of work that we do? The first thing is that you have to understand what type of project you are running. Is it a new fit out, and in what type of place is it? Are you going to set up your office in an already existing office space? Or are you building a new office space? Or are you renting a residential space that you're then going to turn into a commercial space? The second thing that you have to do is then understand what type of codes and standards meet the type of project that you're going to do. When you know this, it helps you now list down everything that you need to know and start getting the right approvals for that. But before you even jump to get into approvals, a commercial design project is not just twofold. It's just not your organization and your corporate manager working with the interior designer. It's very important that you consult experts. And this is where consultation will come in. And these experts, basically what they've done is that they have detailed and relevant information for the type of industry that you have and what would ensure that yours, the design that you're doing, you're putting in the right resources that are going to run over a good period of time. Once you have done that, then you can set out a proper budget and say, this is where we want to go, this is for the period that we want it to stay, and this is how we want to be. Compliance is always the best preventive measure you can put in place. Imagine putting in a lot of your resources into a project and you miss the standards. And then you wake up, you have spent all this money and then you don't even understand where it went. But then you have people knocking on the door and asking you to break things. So in essence, as we have been looking at other topics, we continue to see how this is such a collaborative effort. An organization has its own things that it needs to do. And then by the time you're meeting your interior designer, you sit together and then you bring in the experts who come in to ensure that the design that you're putting in place is something that is going to run for a long period of time and it speaks to exactly what your brand is, regardless of what the sector is. So thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Design Conversations with Ruth, where we have explored all aspects of standards around the type of commercial design that you're going to have. I look forward to you joining me on other episodes as we continue to dive into this commercial interior design and how your organization can work effectively with interior designers to make sure that you are getting the space that you truly deserve.